August 1976. For friends, a remote Maine river. Their canoe is suddenly engulfed by a blinding, silent light. The next thing they know, hours have vanished. They're back on shore, a dying fire their only clock. They remembered nothing at first, but shared, terrifying nightmares soon surfaced. This is the Allagash Four, one of the most disturbing alleged mass abduction cases ever recorded. We explore the missing time, the hypnotic regressions, and the questions that haunt us still. What did they really encounter? It began as an escape. August 1976. Twin brothers Jack and Jim Weiner, along with their friends Chuck Rack and Charlie Foltz, artists, outdoorsmen, seeking refuge in the raw beauty of Maine's Allagash Wilderness waterway. Days were spent paddling downriver, navigating the serene lakes. Nights gathered around crackling campfires under star-drenched skies. The easy camaraderie of trusted friends echoed in the vast, seemingly untouched landscape. They were miles from the nearest town, immersed in a tranquility that felt ancient and profound. The gentle dip of paddles, shared stories, the smell of pine. It was the perfect wilderness retreat. But this deep isolation, the very peace they sought, also placed them far from any watchful eyes, alone beneath a sprawling northern sky that, perhaps, held more than just stars. The incident occurred on their second night at Eagle Lake. Finding their fishing during the day less than successful, the four men decided to try their luck after dark. They built a large bonfire on the shore to guide their return and set out in their canoe onto the calm, black water. It was then that they saw it. A large, intensely bright object hovering silently in the night sky. It wasn't a plane, it made no sound. It wasn't a star. It was too large, too luminous, and seemed to pulsate gently. Curiosity piqued, maybe mixed with a little unease. Charlie Foltz reportedly grabbed a powerful flashlight and blinked it towards the object. The reaction was immediate and terrifying. The light seemed to surge towards them, growing larger, engulfing the area in an otherworldly glow. Jim Weiner described it as being like a stadium light being turned on. Then, according to their later recollections, a tube or beam of light shot down from the object, enveloping their canoe. And then, nothing. The next conscious memory for all four men was being back on the shore, standing near their campsite. The massive bonfire they had built just a short while before had inexplicably burned down to embers, suggesting not minutes, but hours had passed. They felt disoriented, strangely drained, but had no memory of paddling back, no recollection of what occurred after the beam of light hit them. How had they lost at least 2 hours? Shaken and confused, they paddled back to their main campsite further down the lake, a silent, unnerving tension having replaced the earlier camaraderie. They tried to rationalize it. Had they fallen asleep? Misjudged the time? But deep down, a disturbing feeling lingered. Something profound and inexplicable had happened out there on the water. For years, the incident remained a buried anomaly, an unspoken peculiarity of their camping trip. The men went back to their lives, their art, their families. But the silence couldn't hold. Disturbing nightmares began to plague them, particularly Jack and Jim Weiner. These weren't ordinary bad dreams. They were vivid, recurring, and deeply unsettling. They dreamt of strange, large-headed beings with metallic, unblinking eyes. They had visions of being laid out on tables, feeling paralyzed, subjected to strange, cold examinations. The dreams were fragmented, terrifying, and felt disturbingly real. For a long time, each man suffered in silence, assuming it was a personal psychological quirk, perhaps stress manifesting in sleep. The true turning point came years later, possibly triggered when Jim Weiner began experiencing seizures, later diagnosed as temporal lobe epilepsy. Could there be a connection to that night? Around 1983, Jim reportedly confessed his disturbing dreams to his brother Jack, only to find that Jack was having strikingly similar nightmares. Soon, they discovered Chuck Rack and Charlie Foltz were also haunted by fragmented, frightening images from that lost time. The realization was chilling. All four men shared elements of the same traumatic, bizarre dreamscape tied to that single night of missing time. Coincidence seemed utterly insufficient. They needed answers. Their search led them to Raymond Fowler, a well-respected UFO investigator known for his thorough research into abduction claims. Intrigued by the potential for a multiple-participant abduction with missing time, Fowler facilitated their introduction to Anthony Constantino, a clinical hypnotist specializing in regression therapy. The hope was that hypnosis could unlock the memories consciously suppressed or inaccessible since that night in 1976. One by one, over several sessions, each of the four men underwent hypnotic regression. What emerged from the depths of their subconscious was startlingly consistent and deeply disturbing. Under hypnosis, they independently recounted being floated, paralyzed, up into a circular craft. They described the interior as sterile, brightly lit, and filled with unfamiliar equipment. They recalled encountering non-human entities, typically described as slender beings with large, hairless heads, huge, dark, wraparound eyes, and minimal facial features. Their descriptions, given separately under hypnosis, bore remarkable similarities. The most distressing part of their hypnotic recollections involved physical examinations. They described being laid on tables, feeling powerless and terrified as the beings subjected them to various procedures. These allegedly included painful sampling of skin and bodily fluids, probing with strange instruments, and intense mental scrutiny. The emotional recall was raw. Feelings of violation, helplessness, and overwhelming fear were relived during the sessions. Were these genuine, recovered memories of an alien abduction? Or was the trauma of the unknown, coupled with the suggestive nature of hypnosis, crafting a shared narrative from fragmented fears and cultural archetypes? The question hangs heavy over the tapes of those sessions. The consistency across the four separate accounts, obtained under hypnosis, is perhaps the most compelling aspect of the Allagash case. Details about the craft's interior, the appearance of the entities, and the nature of the examinations align to a degree that investigators found difficult to dismiss as mere coincidence. How could four different men, years later, independently generate such similar, specific, and bizarre narratives if there wasn't some shared external stimulus? Adding to this apparent corroboration, reports suggest the men underwent and passed polygraph tests regarding their conscious memories of the initial light encounter and the subsequent nightmares. While polygraphs are not infallible and their admissibility is often debated, in the context of UFO investigations, passing results were seen by proponents as bolstering the men's credibility. Raymond Fowler meticulously documented the case in his book, The Allagash Abductions, presenting the hypnotic testimonies and polygraph results as significant evidence pointing towards a genuine abduction event. Fowler argued that the men's backgrounds, stable, creative individuals, veterans, made them unlikely candidates for perpetrating a hoax. These pieces, when assembled, seemed to form a disturbing puzzle pointing towards an encounter far outside conventional understanding. But does a compelling puzzle equate to definitive proof? Naturally, the Allagash case attracted significant skepticism. The heavy reliance on hypnotic regression is a major point of contention. Critics argue that hypnosis is highly susceptible to suggestion and confabulation, the unconscious fabrication of memories. Could the hypnotist, even unintentionally, have guided the subjects? Could the men, already convinced something strange happened, have subconsciously filled the memory gaps with imagery drawn from science fiction or the growing cultural awareness of alien abduction tropes in the late 70s and 80s? Alternative explanations for the initial event have also been proposed. Could the bright light have been a misidentified aircraft, a weather phenomenon, or even a clandestine military test? Could the missing time be attributed to a dissociative state brought on by fear or an unusual natural event? Some neurologists suggest that temporal lobe epilepsy, like Jim Weiner experienced, can sometimes be associated with unusual experiences or memory distortions, though this wouldn't explain the shared experiences of the other three. Furthermore, adding another layer of complexity, years after the case gained notoriety, reports emerged that Chuck Rack expressed doubts or even partially recanted his story, suggesting pressure or suggestibility might have played a role in his hypnotic accounts. While the exact nature and extent of his retraction remain debated among researchers, it inevitably casts a shadow of uncertainty. Can we reconcile these doubts with the apparent sincerity and consistency of the initial testimonies? The skeptical viewpoint reminds us that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and asks whether the Allagash case truly meets that threshold. So, where does that leave us with the Allagash Four? Decades after that fateful night on Eagle Lake, the case remains an enduring enigma. We have 4 credible witnesses, ordinary men on an ordinary camping trip, who encountered something extraordinary. We have a period of missing time, corroborated by the state of their campfire. We have years of shared, disturbing nightmares. We have remarkably consistent accounts retrieved under hypnosis, detailing an alleged abduction by non-human entities. And we have past polygraph tests, lending some weight to their conscious claims. Yet, we also have the inherent uncertainties of hypnotic recall, the possibility of subconscious confabulation, plausible, if less dramatic, alternative explanations, and the later reported doubts of one participant. The Allagash story forces us to confront the limits of memory, the mysteries of the human mind, and the unsettling possibility that we may not be alone, or that our perceptions of reality can be profoundly fragile. Was the Allagash Four a genuine encounter with extraterrestrial visitors? A complex psychological event born from a confusing and frightening experience, or something else entirely, still beyond our grasp? The truth, like the light they saw that night, remains elusive, hovering just out of reach. What is your theory on the Allagash mystery? Do you believe their accounts point to an alien abduction? Or do the skeptical arguments hold more weight? Have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If exploring the unexplained and questioning the edges of our reality intrigues you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. And if you found this story compelling, please share this video with others who dare to wonder about what lies hidden in the shadows. Thank you for watching.